So, folks, we have to talk a little bit about what happened in Minnesota recently. The Democratic Farmer Labor Party, which is the Democratic Party in Minnesota, there's a whole history there. We're not going to get into it. Suffice it to say, the Democrats in Minnesota, their political party is called the DFL. And the DFL convention happened, I think, last week. A lot of drama went down. And for those of you who have been watching any of the political stuff in Minnesota, I know we're not at the top of anybody's political, paying attention to list, but it's been wild, right? So we have a current representative for Minnesota named Angie Craig, who is trying to run for an open Senate seat, being left by Senator Tina Smith, who's retiring, right? However, we also have a lieutenant governor, Peggy Flanagan, who is running for that same seat. And the battle in the primary has gotten very heated, to say the least. Now, what happened at the DFL convention is a big deal, because effectively who the DFL endorses means the world for the rest of the campaign. When the DFL endorses a candidate here, it means they are the one that the DFL is putting all of their volunteers, all of their resources behind. And if someone is not endorsed by the DFL, it means they cannot. They're locked out of collaborating with folks within the DFL for their campaign. And it doesn't mean that the campaign is just done, but it does mean that your campaign has been dealt a pretty severe blow. Now, Angie Craig is not very popular in Minnesota among Democrats and folks on the left, because she's largely been one of the representatives in Congress who has been very willing to collaborate with Republicans. She voted in favor of the Lake and Riley Act, for example, and that then came back to bite her when ICE in ski masks came and started abducting people off the streets of Minneapolis and terrorizing countless families and killing people in the streets. Like, that left a mark, and people aren't just gonna forget that when the election rolls around. And not only that, she's just the more conservative candidate in the DFL primary. And on the other hand, you have Peggy Flanagan, and you might be forgiven if you don't know who Peggy Flanagan is, but she is the current lieutenant governor of the state under Tim Walz, and she is also a very progressive candidate. She's an Indigenous woman. In fact, she was, if Tim Walz had been elected in 2024 to serve as vice president, she would have been the first Indigenous woman governor in U.S. history, which would have been pretty cool. And Peggy Flanagan is just genuinely really cool. And here's a little speech from her.
We're building a movement that demands more from our leaders in Washington. So here's what I'm ready to throw down for: raising the federal minimum wage and indexing it to inflation, because one job should be enough. Lowering the price of all prescription drugs, getting rid of prior authorization, and we're going to pass Medicare for all, friends. And we're going to fight for truly affordable housing, so that people can make their rent and that young people can buy their first home before they're middle age. A child tax credits to lift working families out of poverty, codifying access to abortion, protecting workers on the job to ensure dignified and safe working conditions, banning dark money from our elections, and getting rid of politicians who expect us to settle for less, stay quiet, and accept scraps while they profit off of their offices. And finally, ripping ICE apart and fixing our broken immigration system.
Yeah, like she's doing a lot of great work, and my understanding is she's not accepting corporate PAC money. And also, worth noting, she's also, as they say, down with the trans youth. You know, she has specifically been vocally pro trans kids, which at this moment in time is, I think, incredibly important. Yeah, she's great. I like her a lot. And what was really exciting and interesting to see happen at the DFL convention was that essentially right before it happened, Angie Craig kind of read the writing on the wall and saw that she was not going to get the DFL endorsement. So what happened was that Angie Craig just said, fuck the DFL, we ball, and instead is now skipping the DFL endorsement process and saying that, oh, well, it's all hopelessly corrupt and there's no... There's too much infighting going on. Here's some local coverage of it. May 27th, 2026, Angie Craig announced she's dropping from seeking the DFL endorsement in her bid for U.S. Senate. Will be running in the primary just days before the convention was due to take place after 4 months of work from her campaign towards winning against Peggy Flanagan. So all of this is being done because she could not beat Peggy Flanagan when it came to getting the DFL endorsement. I have no idea what she thinks her pathway to victory is outside of DFL endorsement. That seems to be a very difficult road to walk. It's also worth noting she was, prior to this, boasting about how popular she was within the DFL. So this is a huge blow to her personally as well. I mean, like, this campaign has always been about the many versus the money. People have to understand our campaign from the beginning. We show up and we do the work. And meanwhile, Angie Craig has been taking a ton of money from PACs. And in fact, that has just come back to bite her in particular. And we'll get into that in a moment. But it is worth noting that around 75% of the DFL delegates were committed to supporting Peggy Flanagan by the time the DFL convention rolled around. I mean, every indivisible chapter in Minnesota endorsed Peggy Flanagan. And like, Angie Craig is effectively locked out of any meaningful organizing apparatus that currently exists. I don't really know what her plan is now, other than throw a ton of money at it and see what happens. Maybe hope that Republicans show up somehow and vote in the DFL primary. Like, some of the scuttlebutt, according to Taylor Dolan, who's, if you guys want to know anything about what's happening in Minnesota politics, you should be checking in with her. The DFL primary poll for Congressional District 2, which is Angie Craig's district that she represents, apparently, even in her own district, Angie Craig is fighting for her life and is like tied neck and neck with Peggy Flanagan. That's devastating. That is devastating news. And there is going to be a debate on June 19th, and I will be hopefully covering that with you guys, because I would love to dive deep into it. What is the DFL? Democratic Farmer Labor Party. It is the Democratic Party in the state of Minnesota. It's a holdover from before the Democratic Party was a nationalized entity. It's a whole thing. That's when my convention is. It's okay. It's okay. We'll be watching it. The VOD will go up. It'll all be good. But Flanagan isn't taking AI money, crypto money, APAC money, or corporate PAC money, and like has the support of every indivisible chapter. It's also worth noting that in basically every poll prior to the most recent one, Flanagan is up. What's really interesting here, Flanagan's up plus 30, plus 6, plus 3, plus 12, plus 13, plus 11. What's really interesting here, to me, is that you'll note something interesting about the polling, which is that the most recent poll that has Angie Craig up by 1 point is done by an organization known as Northstar Dawn PAC. That's really interesting, because I think that this is basically the reason Angie Craig is staying in the race and continuing to try and fight. It's based off of this poll. And not only that, the question then has to be asked, who is Northstar Dawn PAC? And I think that that's a great question worthy of being interrogated. Because, in particular, a couple days ago, on May 28th, apparently Peggy Flanagan began her process of attacking Angie Craig, specifically for taking corporate PAC money. You know, Angie Craig's taking APAC money, crypto money. And I want to point out one additional thing here, which is that this is all happening, of course, after Peggy Flanagan gets the DFL endorsement. I was pretty fired up about it. This is actually a GIF that you can find quite readily if you just search Peggy under the GIFs on Blue Sky, which is incredible. The age of Peggy is here. But the question is still, who's Northstar Dawn PAC? Let's take a quick gander. Northstar Dawn PAC. Let's take a look here. Top result on Google. Oh, northstardawn.com. And it takes you to just a bare bones website paid for by Northstar Dawn PAC. And it's just a page that says, meet Angie Craig. Raised by a single mom, Angie Craig grew up in a mobile home park where she learned the foundations of grit, determination, and a commitment to everyday Americans. In 2018, she flipped a Republican congressional seat to help take back the House and do her part to hold Donald Trump accountable. In Congress, she's taken on big pharma to lower the cost of prescription drugs, pushed to hold elected officials, both parties accountable, and stood up to corporate monopolies that have raised costs for everyday families. A married mother of 4, Craig is the first openly LGBTQ member of Congress from Minnesota. And, that's great, but also she sucks as a politician. And it does make you wonder, hey, wait a minute. Northstar Dawn PAC paid for this website and is directly supporting Angie Craig. Northstar Dawn PAC also paid for and conducted the survey that has Angie Craig up by 1 point. And not only that, Northstar Dawn is the organization responsible for running the first attack ad that Angie Craig has run against Peggy Flanagan. And that has backfired absolutely spectacularly. And to the extent that local news has taken an interest in it. This is from earlier today.
This afternoon, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan's campaign team for U.S. Senate took aim at a television ad you've seen on this channel, saying that ad is using an AI-generated deep fake of Flanagan. The ad is paid for by Northstar Dawn. That's a super PAC supporting Angie Craig in the U.S. Senate race. The ad shows Flanagan smiling and holding her hand out, but Flanagan and her team say that image is AI and not her. The Craig campaign did not make that ad. They also did not pay for it. Again, this ad is from a super PAC that is not based in Minnesota. And that super PAC is not answering any of the questions I asked on these AI allegations in the ad. Craig's team said she does not support the use of AI in political ads at all. In Minnesota, you should know it's a criminal offense to use deepfakes and AI to influence elections or to harm a candidate. But it's not clear right now if this means that ad has to be taken off the air or if there's any legal follow-up. I'll be right back.
What's crazy to me is it's illegal, but it's not clear if there are any consequences for breaking the law, which is, I don't know, kind of a big problem if something is explicitly illegal. But this has now become a huge scandal. Basically, everyone in Minnesota fucking hates this. It played during the big basketball game that happened recently. People were complaining about seeing it. They hate it. They hate it a lot. So, like, if this was Angie Craig's, like, big gamble, like, she got fed polling from Northstar Dawn PAC that she's actually doing great and she should stay in the race. And now they're trying to, like, run attack ads to, like, bring Peggy Flanagan down. This is maybe one of the worst strategies you could possibly come up with. So basically what I'm getting at here is I don't think that they're going to get a whole lot of traction on this anti-Peggy Flanagan train. And I think that's good. Right? I think that's good. Yeah, can we, if super PACs are people because they have free speech, can we jail the super PACs? I feel like that's a fair question. Now, I do also want to add another thing here, which is that at the DFL convention, of course, Amy Klobuchar, the Klob, took the stage and, got the DFL endorsement to run for governor. And this, of course, bums me out greatly. I've talked about this at length in the past. I'm not a huge fan of Amy Klobuchar. I find her to be exceedingly moderate to a degree that I think is definitively harmful at this particular point in time. But there was a ray of light at the DFL convention that I personally was not expecting, which is that Amy Klobuchar actually had a challenger at the DFL. And that challenger was Kobey Lane. And Kobey has been running a grassroots campaign for a while. I think since Tim Walz dropped out of the race. And, I've been aware of the Lane campaign for a while. I didn't know, to be completely honest with you, there has been little to no press coverage of Lane's campaign in Minnesota. However, I've been aware that they've been going around and doing speeches. I watched their first speech, the first speech of the campaign season, and I was interested, but it seemed like a really big long shot. And what was really fascinating was that at the DFL convention, Lane got enough support within the DFL to actually take the stage as an equal candidate alongside Amy Klobuchar. And that challenge to the Klobuchar candidacy and the existence of another candidate on the left, I think is an incredibly, incredibly good thing, especially in this case. Because even if Kobey Lane doesn't win, I think someone like Amy Klobuchar benefits greatly. And when I say benefits, improves greatly when there is pressure to do so. And in this case, having pressure from the left forces Amy Klobuchar to go farther to the left. And I think that is inherently a really good thing in the case of someone who is a very moderate, almost unpalatably so moderate candidate. And yeah, the push for Klobuchar to go more to the left, I think, is deeply, deeply important. That being said, one thing I kept hearing about from people who were at the convention was that Kobey's speech was really good. And I tried to find copies of the whole speech. Seemed very elusive. Some people only had a minute or two here and there, but I wanted the full 15-minute long speech. And thankfully, Kobey Lane or someone from her campaign uploaded the full speech. So we're going to take a look. And I think that this is great. Yeah, Klobuchar is very malleable. I think one of the good things about politicians without a spine is that they can be molded to be better. And let's take a look. Let's see what is doing the molding here.
UNIDO's trained over 50,000 constitutional observers and gave out 40,000 whistles, ones like this one. ICE violated our communities, and we became world leaders in organizing to defend our communities by nourishing, housing, and protecting our black and brown neighbors. And we will continue to organize until ICE is out, abolished, while prosecuting these leaders for progressive change.
Also, thank God for the captions. The sound quality of trying to record from inside a space like this is difficult to say the least. If you do not have an inside line on like the actual microphones themselves, the sound quality is terrible. So thank you to whoever on the Lane campaign who added the captions.
What we do sets the tone for what the working class across this country will demand. This is bigger than our party or our state. Our world-class organizing is just the beginning of a national movement to take back what's been stolen from the working class. Minnesota is skipping over the primary process. What we learned through Operation Metro Surge is that when we are called to meet the moment, to defend our communities from systems that seek to harm us, we must stand in solidarity because our communities are worth the fight. Someone with nowhere to go, I know you. If you've ever wondered where your next meal is going to come from, I know you. If you've ever given up on seeking justice, I know you. And if you refuse to give up fighting for what is right, I know you. Every community that is tired of being harmed at the hands of our government, tired of being harmed by elected leaders who side with big money instead of the people. Are they aligned with big money, or are they with the people? Because they can't be both. We pass communities every day, but we cannot serve the working class unless we talk about systemic racism and our DFL. Just because we are not the Republican Party does not mean that our anti-racism work is done. Doing anti-racism work is hard. It's everywhere. But we need to get our house in order first before we judge the Republicans. What I mean by this, white candidates ask the black community for their support, yet too few mention the 2026 United Black Legislative Agenda. White candidates ask immigrant communities for their support, yet some candidates can't even stomach the words abolish ICE.
This, I'm not gonna lie, this has some legs. This has some juice, you know? And like, I haven't seen polling numbers, to be honest. I haven't seen anything that treats the Kobey Lane campaign like it has a legitimate shot. But I would be very curious to know where the needle actually stands locally, because I know that they've been doing the local work, right? This campaign has been doing the shit, you know? And at the very least, I am intensely grateful that someone is running and bringing up very important and salient issues within the DFL in order to push Amy Klobuchar to better positions. Also, just from what we've seen so far, even if she doesn't win this particular race, I think she has a good shot of continuing to build up a local profile in a way that would allow her to win other positions. I remember when this kind of talk would make you a pariah. I mean, it still kind of does, right? Like, there is a lot of support in this room for what she's saying, but I don't think, like, it's not the majority of the room, sadly. But it is sizable enough that it gets her up there and allows her to make these points in a way that can't be ignored. And I think that that is a really big deal in Minnesota politics in particular. Because Minnesota politics, much like Minnesota interpersonal relationships, is very passive aggressive. So having this message put directly in the DFL's sphere matters a whole lot. And this is part of the reason, this is actually an excellent demonstration of why I think it is very much worth your time to build power within the Democratic Party. Because it gets the message in front of the people who need to see it, which is other people who want to help and are generally aligned with you, but who need to be brought further left. And I think that this is an incredibly important component of how to unfuck the political system in this country.
Unity means standing up for what is right, not what is politically convenient. We cannot leave trans kids behind and ask the LGBTQ community to vote.
Also, she's cooking so hard, and there's still 10 minutes of this speech left. My understanding is that a lot of her time has been spent going into the rural parts of Minnesota to listen and like learn what their concerns are and how to include those within a kind of, you know, a governor platform. And I have a sneaking suspicion that that might gain her more traction than some might suspect in Minnesota.
It is no secret, friends. Our electorate is losing faith in our party. All that they are asking for.
What's her background outside of politics? This is one of the major like stumbling blocks, I think, for some people, which is that I believe up until like she got a degree in like political science, I believe, and became a Republican staffer and was working on Republican campaigns until like 2022. And that, I think, is a rough pill for some folks to swallow. Especially given, you know, Trump is president again, and like that part sucks. She is cooking here. And I am also someone who believes that people can change. And I also, you know, I come from being like a fundamentalist Christian religious conservative from my own background. So like I'm well aware people can grow out of this and change. And yeah, it is weird, right? I am also going to say this is one of the things that I don't care about a whole lot, largely because when I look at what she's doing functionally, I appreciate the function of what she's doing more than whatever her background is. In particular here, what I mean is whether she is doing this sincerely or not is irrelevant, because I think that her getting up and doing this type of message. Oh, Brian Ressler,
get yourself a beer.
Thank you for the $10 super chat. Very much appreciated. My position is she's pushing Amy Klobuchar further left. And I do think that Amy Klobuchar is basically a gigantic machine here in Minnesota, and I do think that she has overwhelmingly the odds of winning in Minnesota. But that being said, I still appreciate someone who is willing to stand up and go the distance against Klobuchar to push her further left. And if Kobey Lane is going to do that, then I don't care if it's sincere or not. But I do think doing it now and pushing a candidate further left and then maintaining a consistent set of beliefs into a future campaign, I think that will alleviate a lot of people's concerns about that Republican background. So that's what I would say about that. If it starts looking like Kobey Lane might win, then maybe there's a more meaty conversation to have about the sincerity of her positions. And I do think she's sincere about them, like from what I've seen. I don't think people put this much grassroots effort into getting elected if they aren't sincere. That's just kind of my thought process on that.
Policies they can rally behind. I speak today as a young person in this state. We must stop telling young people to have hope for a train that just won't come.
Yeah, exactly, Forlorn 79. When my approach to politics is not fanning out over different candidates. It's not sports based. It's not what color jersey they wear. It is, are these people going to be useful for pushing the kind of policies that are needed to change the country in a more positive way? Like that is it. End of story. And I think, I hope that helps kind of like click any pieces into place for you guys about how I view politics and how I view advocacy, because I don't view what I'm doing here as like a outpouring of like my innermost self. I view it as a tool to try and make the world a better place. Like that's what I want, you know, like that's why I do what I do. And if somebody is sincere and cannot get us to that place, and someone is insincere and can get us to that place, I'll take the option that's more pragmatic and gets us to where we want to go.
What they need, and it is up to our elected leaders to not only listen, but act. Our communities set the agenda, and our elected leaders should follow. Across this state. Politics is about policy, not personalities, not platitudes.
Oh, hey, she just said what I said, but smarter. Thank you.
The governor is a powerful vessel for policy with a signature that impacts over 5 million Minnesotans. If we are a Big Tent party, then we need to act like a Big Tent party. It's found in how all of our working class communities stand together in solidarity.
Well, and that's true, Queenie. Problem with insincere one is you can't trust a word they say because they lack in sincerity, which is why when it comes to insincere politicians, like, you need to be able to leverage the power that forces them to do the thing that you want them to do. When it comes to the insincere politicians, it's a question of power, right? It doesn't matter if someone is insincere if the power that has been set up by people and organizing forces insincere folks to take actions they wouldn't otherwise do that benefit everybody. You know, does that make sense? Like, politics is a power game. Like that's it is all about power. I get nervous about the tent being big enough for the Cheneys. Well, that's the thing, right? The Cheneys coming into the tent weren't to serve any kind of pragmatic future for the Democrats. The Cheneys coming into the tent were to serve the neoliberal transition of the Democratic Party. It was to kill off the liberal and farther left elements of the Democratic Party. That's why they brought the Cheneys in, right? And so that is one of the weaknesses when you start talking about insincerity among politicians.
I won't believe a word out of her mouth without a you betcha or a don't-cha know.
Don't you know? Oh, you betcha. Oh, don't you know? We got to get into a boat.
And working class solidarity means the future governor must bring with her every working class community to the governor's office. Silver lining in this, friends, is that we have an opportunity today to vision I am offering you today.
Like, I guess I get to, I know I'm interrupting and that's rude of me, but I guess the point I'm making is that if we suddenly found out tomorrow that Bernie Sanders has actually been going home every night and talking about how much he hates socialism and how he really loves capitalism and like it's all been like a big facade, I don't think that would invalidate the usefulness of Bernie Sanders going out there day after day doing what he does. You know, like the utility of what Bernie does is what makes him important. It's not, it isn't necessarily his sincerity, though in politics, sincerity is also a kind of political capital.
It's one where we finally fight private equity in our lives. Success by profit margins and shareholder value. Let's build systems that measure success by how resilient and prosperous entire communities are. Our local businesses are the ones that organize and distribute resources when our community...
Yeah, I'm not saying that sincerity and authenticity isn't important. But what I am saying is that when we're talking about politicians, we have no method really outside of consistency over time to validate their sincerity. You know, none of us can peer into their hearts. None of us can like definitively prove that any given politician is sincere, right? It's just that consistency over time that builds political capital. And in a case like Kobey Lane, if she was doing much, much better in the election and had like a chance, like a big chance, a significant chance of winning, then like the conversation about, hey, how did you de-radicalize from being a conservative starting like 4 years ago would become a much bigger question. But here I'm not really as interested in that because the utility of her running is not necessarily limited to just if she wins. Her running alone and running a campaign in this particular way is incredibly useful and has a utility of its own.
I wonder if she understands how much I was wrong about that in the past. I've learned and improved would go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And maybe she has. I imagine that Kobey Lane has had those conversations, but again, because of the lack of coverage, I'm just not aware of them. I do know we might have an in to get her on the show, so I guess I'd be interested in having a conversation about that. I'm confused and curious about what led her to working with Republicans. I mean, it's the same thing I talked about earlier. You know, a lot of she's relatively young. Like a lot of people grow up and they inherit their politics from their family. And especially in Minnesota, like that can mean like you inherited like your religious beliefs and your political beliefs from your parents. And that can kind of bake in a certain type of conservatism that's hard to shake. Right. And when you then grow up, it can take some time to like unlearn some of those things, to de-radicalize from that. And I know I had a hard time doing that. You know, it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I had a better handle on what my politics were. So like it's not inconceivable to me, but I do think it's a valid question to have. Yeah, Fetterman in particular is a very classic like set of red flags. I know that that's what people are worried about with Graham Plattner too. And Graham Plattner, I think, has a lot of red flags in ways that aren't related to his sincerity. In my view, anyway, just a lot of baggage on that guy. But that being said, I think his political utility is likely going to pan out. And in a similar way, I do find Kobey Lane to be very sincere. I'm not doubting her sincerity. I don't think people would be wrong to have questions about that.
Communities are attacked. I didn't hear Target or Amazon speaking out and stepping up during Operation Metro Surge. Don't let them gaslight us into
Also, I do think having a serious conversation in Minnesota, specifically about Target, which is headquartered in Minnesota, like I do think that there should be state level action to punish Target for allowing itself to be used and allowing its premises to be used to terrorize people in this state. What a like there are very few corporate moves that I can think of as disgusting as that, as they kidnap even the employees at Target.
But is she wine mom enough to make you have questions about her son Sarah ity?
God damn it, Sake. Leftists clutching pearls at Graham Plattner's past is really shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah, like I'm just not very interested in the conversation on that one, you know? I feel like my position is pretty simple and straightforward on him.
Minimum wage and require them to host union elections annually.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Target, want to fuck around? Let's make sure your workforce gets unionized. How about them apples?
So we will pass a law allowing workers on strike to tap into unemployment insurance.
Oh, fuck yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. She's speaking my language, okay? I'm all about worker cooperatives. I'm all about making sure that unions have the ability to tap into unemployment. Let's go.
Where every worker gets access to business ownership with every loan issued. But as long as our employers have us chained by our health care, we are not free to pursue other opportunities. Donald Trump's one big bullshit bill will get from their insurance, and I will bet you the last $1.25 in my checking account that it will be someone you know.
Also, did I concoct an entire segment supposedly about the Senate race in Minnesota just as a flimsy excuse to play the entirety of Kobey Lane's speech at the DFL convention? Yes, I did. That this is the entire purpose of why we're doing this segment.
That is why this campaign is fighting for Medicare for all. That doesn't
Yeah, she still has 6 minutes.
We must make sure that our children are cared for. It truly takes a village to raise a child. And this is more than just freeing up parents for the labor force. It's about making sure that our children have early childhood interventions to make sure they're prepared with phonics and social skills before they get to kindergarten.
Hell yeah, Kate. 2 through K.
Racial disparities in education, and it starts with making sure teachers have what they need to meet our children. We deserve to go home to a place where the rent or the mortgage doesn't leave you wondering if you can afford groceries. The problem with our housing market is that we've allowed housing to be an investment vehicle to be profited from. Yeah! If you are a renter like me, I see you, I hear you. And that is why we are capping rent increases across the state to 3%.
Hell yeah.
And we are passing funding to build more affordable housing and making sure that the tribes see that money too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Foot the bill. We will fight for a progressive corporate tax system and a wealth tax to make sure the most
I like her a lot. I like her a lot.
Keeping this seat blue. However, the trend in this country is to take for granted the communities that vote Democrat in order to grab a couple extra independent and moderate votes. The very systems that enabled Trump's elections. Systems that allow billionaires to profit off the genocide in Gaza. And systems
Yo, that line hits. Systems that allow billionaires to touch the stars while poisoning our environment. That line hits. It's a very good speech, guys.
We are called to be good stewards of our lands and waters. Yet here we stand in a climate crisis. We will enact a moratorium on data center construction and
yeah.
that get us to our 2040 carbon neutral goal. Minnesota's Dakota namesake, Minnesota, means land of sky-tinted waters. How about we keep it that way? When you cast your vote, you are reaffirming in this election. People are more important than profits. Healthcare and housing are human rights. Immigrants are welcome here. Change has no home in our state, and no candidate should ever take ACAP money.
Hell yeah.
Our coalition will take home a trifecta in this election if we ensure we serve every working class community across this state. To many of you, Republicans are the enemy. If we, as a working class party, really believe it is top versus bottom and not left versus right, then our enemy is not the working class people on the other side of the aisle that are just as fed up with a corrupt two-party system that ignores the working class. We are really fighting against. The real villains are in the Epstein class. Or anything that they deem beneath them. Friends, we attended the No Kings rallies, yet what stands before us is the coronation of yet another corporate Democrat.
She's right.
Is a working class candidate who refuses to be bought. I am running for governor, fighting for change, because if not me, who? Money doesn't vote, people vote. So let me be clear. You are in control of the fate of our communities. Together, we will make Minnesota a state known for racial, economic, and restorative justice. Who once said, there are three critical ingredients to progressive change and democratic renewal: good public policy, grassroots organizing, and electoral politics. Spelled out for us are the policies we need for thriving communities. Our communities are organized, angry, and fighting for change, and now it is our responsibility to take those demands to the ballot box.
Chills. Well fucking done. Also, props to whoever on the Lane campaign did manage to capture all of that off of a cell phone, because damn, that was good. Damn, that was good. This woman is giving big boss vibes. No fear, all handling business. Hell yeah. That was a damn good speech. It really, really was. And like the thing is, talking about, your enemies are like the top 1%. That is a really important component to include inside of your speech at this particular juncture. Because Joe Schmo, who votes Republican, He doesn't have a whole lot of institutional power. Jeff Bezos does, though. Elon Musk does, though. Like, those are the people who are feeding propaganda to Joe Schmo. And, like, making it clear to the Joe Schmoes who might be able to get reached that your beef is not against them because they're on a different team. Your beef is actually against the people who are paying for all the propaganda, creating the division on purpose. That, I think, is a savvy move, especially for a campaign that is centering working class people, right? Because, like, not everyone at the factory in the union is going to be a Democrat. Some of them are going to be Republicans, but they all got to walk the same picket line, you know? So I think, I don't know. I think, like, that was a really, really good speech. I am flabbergasted and impressed. And I will say also, that was a 15-minute long speech, and there was practically no fluff. Almost all of it is directly related to policy. And frankly, I do think aligning a set of policies against Klobuchar is really savvy politicking as well, because what it does is it leaves open the idea that Klobuchar's campaign will just, like, yoink several of those planks. And then that means, regardless of who wins, we get more farther left concessions. And I think that is a really good thing. That being said, I do hope that Kobey Lane continues to rise. I hope that the race becomes more competitive, because I gotta be honest, I have been very... the word that comes to mind is dour. Very dour and sour about the idea of Amy Klobuchar as governor of Minnesota. And having even just the semblance of another option, I don't know, feels pretty good. I like it. So, if you guys are interested, I'm going to link the speech here, and I'm going to encourage you guys to share it around. Believe it or not, there are around 400-ish people watching right now. Actually, wait, there might be even more than that. Let me take a look. About 450, maybe 500, depending on how you slice it. People watching right now. And that means that this speech actually is having its viewership doubled just by you guys watching. Because right now, this speech only has 493 views. So please share this speech everywhere you can, with everyone you can. And I know some of you guys watch, like, the Majority Report. I would encourage you guys to try and get this in front of the Majority Report. I think we could get more media coverage for Kobey Lane and her campaign. Okay, share it around. Make people aware that the Lane campaign exists. And I'll be putting this up because, frankly, if I titled this video, Kobey Lane in Minnesota gives incredible speech, it would not get any views because nobody knows who she is yet. But talking about the political war that is currently going on within Minnesota, I think might get more eyeballs on this incredible speech and this incredible candidate. So I don't have much outrage right now, but I'll do what I can do. That's all I ask of you guys, you know? I know not everybody has all the connections, but all of you do have some connections. Use them if you got them. All right? And I will also say, you know, get organized. Join your local Dems. If more people had been aware of Kobey Lane within the DFL, maybe she would have had a chance at getting a DFL endorsement. If you guys show up at your local Democratic meetings, you can become people in your local community who can go out and find more candidates like this, higher office. you can shape the political future of your areas by getting involved, by showing up to your local Democratic meetings, by showing up to your local DSA meetings, by getting involved with Progressive Victory and door knocking, phone banking for different electoral campaigns. You guys can make a huge difference. I want you all to know that we here have a community that can help you out. Join our Discord, reach out to Dragonfly if you need help joining your local Dems, reach out to Gamergy if you need help joining your local DSA, and there's a link down below if you're interested in getting involved with Progressive Victory. And the folk like Dragonfly and Gamergy, they have years of experience organizing within their respective organizations in order to be as effective as possible, and they're willing to help you be effective too. So please take advantage of that. Please get involved. Now it is vitally important. And I hope the folks, I hope those of you who've kind of maybe missed your primary season already for the midterms, I hope you still get involved now so that you can be more involved for the 2028 season, because it's going to be even more insane as we go towards 2028. Like we are already on the roller coaster. It is already heading up to that cliff, and it's gonna be a rough, bumpy ride on the way down. Okay, folks. So, all that being said, hit the like button if you got anything out of this. Subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about Kobey Lane's speech, and also share this around as well if you feel inclined. I would really, really appreciate it. You guys make this show possible. Couldn't do it without you fine folks. And last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is comfortable, sexy, non-tucking lingerie. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the doobly-doo. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.